The 2016 Olympic women's football tournament started yesterday with 6 games being played, and I wanted to take a look at some of those games right now, recap them, discuss what happened, who won, who lost, and what it means moving forward. And then in a couple of videos after this, I'll take a look at specific games. This will just kind of be a mishmash of all the games. Before I talk about specific games, there were two important items I wanted to discuss just about the tournament in general. One was one thing that I'm not crazy about with the Olympic football tournaments is that all the games are in one day. So, for example, in like a World Cup or Euro Cup or Copa America, there's the group. There's 4 teams in a group. So let's just say A, B, C, and D, and then A will play on Monday, then B Tuesday, and then uh, with the Olympics, they're all in one day, which means that many of them overlap, and not only that, but after the first match day, then there's a 2 day break. So I would, I know the reason is that with the Olympics, it's difficult to schedule because A, there's a short amount of time that the Olympics go on, and B, because some of the stadiums have to be used for either track or another sport. So I mean, I'm not really complaining. I'm just pointing it out that that's something to consider. That it's odd in that respect. Although there is a positive though, which is you do get plenty of on the day where there is a match day. It is a lot of fun because you can just kind of really focus on the games. The second thing I would point out is that the women's. I discussed this in a prior video, my before the tournament preview. I wanted to mention it one more time. Is that the women's tournament only has 12 teams, 3 groups of 4. That's really unique for a. And personally, I would love to see it go to 16 teams because I think that there's a lot of good teams, frankly, that aren't there. That if they were there, would be threats to not only win their group or do good in group play, but win the gold medal. So I would love to see it eventually go to 16 teams. But with those two things being said, I want to be positive because yesterday was a lot of fun, a lot of good individual moments, a lot of good games, and just yeah, it was a great day to be a soccer fan. Um, the first thing I want to talk about is the uh, Germany Zimbabwe game. Um, this was a game that a lot of people sort of said had the biggest chance to be lopsided, and it kind of was. Zimbabwe is a little bit of an unknown, although I did think that they played pretty well. Um, the I think the big news out of this game is that how good Germany played. It's a very familiar German lineup. One exception is that Sausage retired, so she's not in this tournament. But you have Pop, um, Anya Mittag, Annika Kron, etc. And then one thing I really wanted to mention was Jennifer Marajan started, and it's really good to see her because she was hurt for a lot of the World Cup last year, and she wasn't able to make as big of an impact as she otherwise would have. So, I'll come back to Germany a little later, but I just wanted to point out that they have a huge game on Saturday versus Australia, um, and I think we'll really find out about them in that game. Um, like I said, this is a very familiar German team, and I think that they are a serious threat to win the gold for sure, no doubt about that. The second game I wanted to talk about was the Sweden South Africa game. This was actually a really good game. It was the first game of the day. It kicked it off, and it was goalless until the 75th minute when Sweden scored off of a corner kick. Um, South Africa played really well. I mentioned before the tournament started that South Africa, although they're a little bit new on the global women's stage, um, they do have a good amount of talent, and they played the U.S. in a friendly a couple weeks ago, and they played them really tight. They also lost one. they lost that game 1-0 as well. And so Sweden, they were one of my teams to really look out for coming in this tournament. They didn't play that well at the World Cup last year, but I thought that they played well. They did generate a good amount of chances. They hit the crossbar early on in the first 5 minutes or so. Um, and I don't think they controlled the game. That wouldn't be fair to say, but they were. We definitely saw that they had talent on display. But again, I do think it's only fair to give a lot of credit to South Africa in this one because um, they've got they're a very disciplined team. They got a lot. They have a lot of athleticism, and they can absolutely play. They were not. I didn't have the feeling at any point in this game that they were outclassed or they were right there. I did in my predictions pick them to finish fourth in this group, largely because it's such a good group. You also have Brazil and China in this group, but I think that South Africa's 2 games left. Maybe they can pull off a surprise um, against Brazil or China. That'll be definitely worth keeping an eye on. But it was good to see. This was a really fun game to watch, and it was good to see South Africa play well. And it was good to see Sweden get the 3 points, just because I do think that they needed a little bit of a confidence boost. I think that if they're at their best, I think that like I said, they can play with pretty much anyone. So I'm definitely looking out for them to possibly make a deep run. They've obviously got a tough game against Brazil coming up, but they're off to a good start with the 3 points. Before I move on to the individual games, and I'm gonna make that those videos coming up. I wanted to lastly mention Brazil, who had a really nice game, 3-0 win over China. Obviously, this tournament is being held in Brazil, so they have the home court advantage, so to speak. They got off to a great start, and I think that they're another team, like I just mentioned with Sweden, that on their day they're pretty much as good as anybody. I think it just kind of depends how they use the home field to their either advantage or whether they let the pressure get to them. But they seem like they're handling it really well. For China, this was a little bit of a disappointing result. I expected a little more from them, but it was a tough game, first game against Brazil, so you have to give them a little slack for that. And they've got obviously 2 more games to go, and I think that if they find a way to beat South Africa, which will be tough, as I was just talking about South Africa, they'll have the 3 points. And the way that this tournament is structured is that the 2 top third place teams move on. So if you do get a win and pick up 3 points, you really put yourself in a good position to advance, even with just 3 points. The one important thing to note with China, though, is that because they lost 3-0, their goal differential is a little shaky. So if it comes down to, let's just say by chance, I don't know if this will happen or not, but all 3 group third place teams have 3 points, then it would come down to the goal differential, top 2 versus the third. So China will look to correct that. I think that they have a good shot against Sweden as well. I don't think that they'll be outclassed in that game. So I think that for China, from China's perspective, although this game was a little disappointing, I think that they're not out of it by any stretch. I think that they'll be okay. So those are the 3 games I wanted to mention. The 3 other games I'm gonna make a separate video for each of them, because I think that there's a lot more to get into with each of them, and I just wanted to summarize those 3. So in those 3 games, if you're looking for a highlight, I would have to say, or 2, not a highlight, but 2 things that come out of it. 1, the familiar German team looks good, but we'll see how they do against Australia. And 2, Brazil looks good. They came out flying, and they'll be a tough out, no question about it. Marta, for sure, is one of the best players. She has been for a long time, and they're not gonna go down quietly. So that's exciting. It adds a lot of that adds a lot of excitement to this tournament. So I will be back soon. So keep an eye out for them later today. The video is coming up, where I'll look at the U.S. game against New Zealand. I'll look at the France game, and I'll look at the Canada game. Those three games. I'm gonna do a video for each of them. So thank you for watching this one. The next match day is Saturday, where there's a big, again, all 6 games in one day, and I'm really looking forward to that. And these tournaments where the third place teams have the opportunity to advance, there's good things and bad things about that, but one of the good things is that it does make it interesting until the last match day. You kind of, every team's alive until, more or less, until they're done. It's very rare for a team to just be eliminated after 2 games, like you see so often when only the top 2 advance. So I'm very pumped for Saturday, and look out for my videos coming up.